Oh man, my three commas chingus. Good to see you guys on this Friday morning. I don't know. I know we know. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, of course that's what the question you would start with, Kevin, to the two Korean guys that co-host this thing. Uh, actually, I don't know if margin call. I didn't get margin calls. We don't need to ask this question to Ian, but I have a feeling this guy made a little bit of money this week. Don't answer that question. He's like, and he's been like calling the bubble for quite some time in Korea, but yeah, three to my 3.4 million chingus in South Korea who did get margin called. Uh, yeah, I'm so sorry, and hopefully that you guys can recover soon and also get a little bit entertained if you're listening to this podcast today with some of the news that we're going to cover. We're not going to talk about the margin calls though for this week, but we are going to stick to some Korean news, right? So, um, Ian, maybe you can introduce this because you were the one that hooked up me and Kevin with this invitation last week on Friday. What were we doing last Friday together?
Maybe, I don't know. Eric, you should introduce it because I'm going to be biased. So you can
Uh,
tell us about your
okay.
experience. Or Kevin,
All
you should
right. All right. All right.
tell us
All
your
right.
experience meeting the president of Korea, Kevin.
Ooh, Kevin, yeah, you do this.
Well, okay, so I'll do the introduction. So, for those who don't know, the Korean president spent a bit of time in San Francisco last week and met with a lot of top uh, tech leaders as well as VC funds, government folks as well. And we were honored to get invited, thanks to Ian's coordination with a lot of the Korean government ministries, to one of the summits. I think they called it the AI Summit, where the president gave a speech about the AI declaration of investing and partnering with great AI companies wherever they are in the world. And then it was like a panel format with like the who's who. It was like a complete stacked panel, both on the Korean side as well as the US side. So from Korea, I think the CEO and founders of Samsung, SK, and Naver and
Hyundai
Hyundai.
and Naver.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all there. And then from the US side, it was Sam Altman from OpenAI, Dario from Anthropic, Jensen from NVIDIA, and Hop 10 from Broadcom. So it was a really, really, really stacked panel, which was super cool to see. And everyone was basically kissing the ring of, the president of Korea, and I want to do so many things with Korea, which makes sense. Like, I think that's the purpose of the trip, to be honest. And then also they were kind of like praising each other, right? And so we had a much more funny word for it in our group chat. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on a podcast, but it was very fun to see it all. But yeah, like, what do you guys think?
Um, it was fun. I'm really grateful, Ian, that you hooked us up with that experience to be in that room to see the South Korean president right in the middle, surrounded by all these people. And it felt like a king holding court, or maybe a dictator holding court, whatever it is. And just to see each one of them spend so much time effusively praising the president and the country, as someone who's ethnically, Korean, was a hell of a thing. And I wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying. At the end of the day, it's all the same, right? It's like, well, the Korean people and like, your manufacturing capabilities and your role in like AI, it's all the same thing. But our chat between the three of us, we were running this text thread, was so hilarious. Again, it ended up getting maybe more vulgar than it needed to, but let's just put it this way. Um, it's just crazy when you see Dario. Let me start with this. It was crazy to see Dario and Sam in the same room, right? So we got to sort of set the stage. All of them are lined up, president in the center. Dario and Sam are in opposite corners, basically, and they were having like a hard time looking at each other when they were each talking. And then like Sam Altman was like kind of golf clapping with like the most tepid
Yeah,
response when Dario gave his thing, and then Dario didn't even straight up look at him or clap at all
yeah,
when Sam was doing his thing, and they just were always in the opposite corners of the room. Like Sam just got the hell out of there once the thing was done, it was so fun to watch these dynamics. Ian, what did you take out of that session?
I agree. Like it was just nice to see have everybody like CEOs of Nvidia, Broadcom, Sam Altman, and everybody in the same room because the president of Korea was there. I think that was really, I don't know, somehow proud to some extent. But at the same time, right after that summit, the Korean stock market plunged for over 30%. So we don't know what was happening there. But yeah, it was just nice to see it. And the next day, there was a MOU between US VCs, Sequoia, Lightspeed, NEA, General Catalyst, Khosla. I think those five were in the same room with the president, and they did some, mutual agreement on something. Korean government will invest more in the US VC ecosystem, and expecting US VC ecosystem to invest in Korean market. So I think it was a really good trip. Again, it was a moment that Korean government can have all these people in one room because the president was visiting here for one night. So it was great.
Yeah, it was a hell of a thing to see.
It was a lot of work
Uh,
behind the scene. All my friends here in San Francisco was going crazy for over a month to prepare this event, or days. Like so
yeah,
much work. So many like bridges were burned because they're trying to set everybody up and all that kind of stuff. Some of people didn't want to show up, and we're never going to see them in the Korean market ever. Some of the VCs.
yeah,
So something like
yeah.
that. It was just a fun but very very demanding experience for everybody here in San Francisco.
I think one of the fun experiences, Kevin, that we had after the event was watching all the fanboys of Ian come up to like rush Ian actually after and be like, "Can I have a selfie with you?" And then they were looking at us like, "Oh, can you take a photo of me and Ian?"
Yeah. I don't know who you guys are, but like, I want a photo with
Yeah,
this guy.
yeah. We were treated like the personal assistants of Ian, which is frankly what we are in real life too. Um, but no, pretty cool. Great experience, Ian. Thank you again for hooking us up with this thing. Yeah, 10 out of 10. Plus, they gave us like fun gifts at the end. We actually rushed the stage afterwards too and took some pictures.
Oh, that's
So
true.
These
Yeah,
big
that was fun.
we should use one of them in the carousel.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah. So, okay, let's actually move into what I think is the finance story of the week. This is all blowing up in the last few days as of this recording, but there's this 24, 25-year-old kid. I call him a kid. His name is Leopold Aschenbrenner, and he runs a hedge fund called Situational Awareness, which is focused on AI investments. And he has at one point had like as much as like 45 billion of NAV or something under management. And then just yesterday or the day before, or was it Monday, sometime this week, after being leveraged 4x, he was completely wiped out and was forced to actually sell all of his public positions, right, to none other than Papa Ken Griffin at Citadel. I feel like I've heard this story before. There's this thing called like GameStop and like Marvin Capital, and I feel like this maneuver happened with Citadel before. I think it's worthwhile, guys, Chingus, to actually talk through what happened here. And maybe even before we talk about Leopold and even what his fund actually does. Kevin, as our former investment banker guy, do you mind explaining like what the mechanics of margin trading is and leverage, just for our audience that may not be familiar with some of these terms?
Yeah, of course. And I think we should also talk a little bit about like Leopold's background because it is very, very, very impressive.
Yes,
He was
let's
like,
do that next. Yeah.
yeah. So it's not like, he was a crazy person that just like blew up and he deserved it. Like I think everyone was kind of rooting for the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So margin calls, it's funny because we've talked about the Korean margin calls actually. But I don't know if we've like we're making fun of it. Yeah, I don't know if we explained the dynamics of it, but there's just margin calls happening left and right now. So typically when, someone is trading stocks, right? say that you have $1 million, for example, and you're trading stocks in your portfolio. Usually you can only buy $1 million worth of stocks, right? You can buy maybe $500,000 of Nvidia and like $500,000 of Microsoft if you really like those companies. And you can't, once you used all your cash, you can't trade anymore. You can't buy any more stuff. You can only have to sell to buy more. Well, margin is basically getting a loan and getting leverage from a financial institution, whether it's your brokerage or a bank, to trade more than the cash that you have. So even if you have $1 million of cash, sometimes certain financial institutions will let you borrow 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times your money to be able to trade stocks. So if you have $1 million, you might be able to actually buy like $4 million of Nvidia instead of just 1 million, right? And effectively, the bank will give you a loan to cover the purchase of an additional, say, $3 million of Nvidia stock in that case. So a lot of hedge funds commonly will use leverage as a way to get additional exposure to stock and basically improve their returns, right? If, for example, Nvidia only went up by 10% during a week or a year, you can leverage by buying 4 times the amount. You actually get 4 times the upside of that with still your $1 million investment in cash. So instead of just going up by 10%, it now goes up by significantly more than that, right? Especially off of your equity that you use there. So in that example, actually, say you bought $5 million of Nvidia, it goes up 10%. You made $500,000 off of your cash, which was just 1 million. You've gone up 50% on that position as a result. So it really juices your returns on the upside, but it also really juices your downside risk as well, because you only put in $1 million of cash. If the stock goes down 10%, you've lost half of your original cash. You've lost $500,000. So it's a very, very risky way to play stocks. I know crypto also has a similar dynamic. You can get margin for crypto as well, and get leverage, which is pretty crazy in my opinion, because crypto is even more volatile than most public stocks. But anyways, Leopold was using 4 times leverage for his portfolio. So he was levered very, very highly. And when, the market unfortunately didn't do too well in the last week or so, and we can get into the story behind why, perhaps with like rates and certain things that the Fed came out with some rate decisions, it kind of blew him up, unfortunately, and his positions went down because the overall market went down. And when a bank sees that your positions are not worth what they used to be, they can issue what's called a margin call, which essentially means they say, hey, you've got to put, your positions are down 10%, 20%. Your equity is low now because you're so levered. So your original cash is worth much, much less than what you put in. You've got to put in more cash if you want to keep your positions open. And so that's the bank or financial institution will literally call you and send that notice. And Leopold didn't have enough cash to fulfill those margin calls. And so some crazy events happened after that. Maybe I'll pass it off to one of you guys to chime in and also tell the rest of the story and his background.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you for the explanation, because I think margin trading is a tale as old as time. I mean, it's not just crypto. This is like what casinos do in the mafia, right? Back in the day, it's like I'm trying to play poker and I'm going deeper and deeper into borrowing from the house or from the mob, and then eventually someone breaks my legs and takes my children, my wife, and all that stuff. It's crazy, how these mechanics can really fall apart. You brought up a really good point, which is like it would be neat to talk about the background of Leopold Aschenbrenner. So this is me just basically summarizing what I'm seeing on Gemini, but his background is freaking incredible. Born in Germany, he's an artificial intelligence researcher, investor, former OpenAI employee. He wrote some pretty incredibly important AGI related essays predicting like AGI in 2027, all stuff. And he's still quite young. I think currently only 24 or 25. So he went to Columbia, enrolled at the age of 15, graduated valedictorian, age of 19, pretty incredible. Did a lot of really cool economics research while he was there. So before 2022, this is where it gets kind of interesting. Or actually even before that, he kind of bought into this like effective altruism thing that was kind of popular with SBF, and then went on to be a part of the investment team with the philanthropic FTX Future Fund before it collapsed in 2022. So there's a connection with SBF.
I did not know that. Wow.
Effective altruism and actually running some money for FTX.
Cool.
And then in 2023, landing on his feet, he joined the OpenAI team on the super alignment team. Don't ask me what that is, but the super alignment team, pretty interesting roles, I'm sure. Fired by OpenAI in April 2024 over alleged disputes around security disclosures and information leaks sourced to him, which he has denied. Okay, so fired. This weekend, he's going to get married, in fact, to the current chief of staff of Dario Amodei at Anthropic. So congratulations on your wedding tomorrow, Leopold. I hope this is not much of a distraction. And then some other kinds of things here too. So in 2024, where he gained a little bit of notoriety, maybe positive notoriety at the time, was a 165-page essay called Situational Awareness, where he was predicting AGI timelines. And this is actually what created, I think, his brand that he was able to then leverage into, pun intended, his fund, which is called Situational Awareness. And it was backed by some huge heavyweights, tech titans and all that stuff. And I think for quite some time, at its peak, he was something up like 864%, over the course of 2 years. And then I think prior to this month, he was sort of in that really sweet zone, looking forward to a good wedding, nice honeymoon, all this money. And then, of course, this all happened. So, where I first heard about this, Ian, was this kid was supposed to be like a genius, right? And there's a lot of stories about him, I think, in the last year, which I didn't really pay attention to. But
I mean, he grew the fund from like 225 million to 20 billion in 2 years. Like, and the returns, I mean, I heard numbers like that. I think in June, he said that the fund had returned 439% for the year and 1,500% since inception, which is like 2 years basically, right? Which is crazy. Like those numbers, like you would never see from even some of the largest and best hedge funds in the world. So like this guy was, for a lot of people, considered like a genius, over the last few years.
It's the same thing as Bill Huang. Remember the guy?
Archegos?
Archegos. It was just
Papa Bill.
Yeah, I just I mean I talked to my partner about this too.
Wait, is he Korean too?
Yes, he's very Christian too, and all that stuff. Yeah.
So, and we should check this guy if this guy is actually German. He might be Korean too.
He's got like a quarter Korean in him.
The Korean leverage blood is through him. So I think the thing bothers me a lot was my friend also told me about this yesterday. Like he looks up to this guy, and I was like, dude, you can do it too if you have the balls. Like you can lever 4 times, and if you get lucky, yes, you can get 600 times or whatever, like 10,000, 1,000 times. But then you might fail, but you can still give a shot if you're popular or famous enough. So, I mean, this guy, I think it just shows another example of Bill Huang or Archegos story that you can lever like crazy, and if you get lucky, you get a lot of money and fame. That's why a lot of people still keep trying, still keep trying this. And this is also a display of, lack of discipline or lack of integrity to some extent. It just shows the track. Like, I guess he's a genius in terms of academic, performance. Graduating Columbia valedictorian in 19 is, of course, it's impressive. But at the same time, like he worked at FTX, managing that crypto money and all that. And he was at Super Alignment Team, but got fired. Super Alignment Team is actually the safety team, right? I
Mm-hmm.
remember
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
opening,
Yeah.
yeah, safety team, and he got fired because he leaked some information from them. It just shows the track record of lack of discipline and integrity. And of course, he makes a lot of money because, again, he doesn't have a discipline. 4 times levered, putting all their LP money into his crazy ride. Got lucky, successful, margin called because, of course, that's how it ends all the time. There might be some successful Bill Hwangs out there, but at the end of the day, if you keep this game over and over, it's like Xeno. The house always wins. So once you win a little bit on your crazy game or leverage game, you keep playing bigger and bigger because you think you're a genius. But then the market is never going to let that happen. So that's the gist of the article that I wrote yesterday. So
Incredible.
I don't think this guy's a genius. I mean, again, academically, yes, but it's just
Yeah.
shows how our financial system could be leveraged, to
Yeah.
get these things out. And his fund name was situational awareness, but he was not really aware of his situation too.
Let's
Cut that out.
use
That's
that
a quote.
soundbite.
I like
Yeah.
that quote. Yeah, he was not situationally aware of his own situation.
Goddamn, that's so good.
No,
Um,
I
you,
agree, man. I think like risk management is like I think it's very important. If you're a $20 billion fund, you're an institutional by any number quantification. Like you are an institutional fund, and institutional funds have to have institutional risk management. And I don't know, maybe if he was long Forex. I mean, the thing is, a lot of hedge funds, even if they have leverage, it's not necessarily like their leverage is just in one direction, right? For example, you can borrow money to make longs and shorts. So most hedge funds do have leverage actually. Like Forex is probably quite a lot, but a lot of hedge funds will run on like what we call gross exposure, which is like 200% would be like 2x leverage. So a lot of hedge funds do that, but they usually will use a portion of that leverage to actually be short the market. So whether the market goes up or down, what we call kind of,
insurance.
yeah, like what we call like beta or kind of like volatility doesn't really matter because market goes up, your longs will go up, your shorts will, also appreciate because the market's down. And so that's hedging, like hedge funds originally started with that way, which is, we don't care if the market goes up or down as a whole. We are going to choose the specific names that are going to outperform. And so I don't know if Leopold was just Forex in the longs because it sounds like he was just like super bullish on like CoreWeave, Nebius, SK
Yeah.
Hynix, Micron, like all these top AI infrastructure chip names. And if you're doing that, like you just have no risk, you have no risk management because if the market goes down, you're screwed. Like you have no shorts to like balance your longs, right? So I don't know. I haven't seen his portfolio, so I don't know what he was doing, but it just sounds like very, very poor risk management.
Well, I have a question for you, Kevin, on the theme of just like how the hedge fund industry works. Because do you think that LPs are actually on net who have been with Leopold from the beginning losing money? How do dividends work? I'm
Hmm.
sure he had some sort of payouts along the way before all this stuff happened. Could they have gotten their principal back, and was this sort of like carry mode or house money at this point?
Yeah, so basically for public hedge funds, when you invest as, you could invest as a personal LP, like an angel LP as well in some of these. Like I have a
Yeah.
few like hedge funds that I've invested in. Usually what happens is you have like quarterly or annual redemptions. So, and Ian probably knows this very well too as a former
Mhm.
LP. You can redeem your position in the fund every quarter, and sometimes they'll limit the amount that you can redeem. So like you can only get 5% of your position or 10% of your original investment back every quarter or something. So they don't want you to take it all out at once, right? But you can only take it out when you ask them to take it out. You don't usually get like regular dividends or anything back until you ask for your position back. But hopefully over time, your position appreciates. So you take 5, 10% out, then, it'll be worth more than it was when you put in. And hopefully you get your principal back. And you can let some of your extra money, like your gains, ride, which is what I've done with some of my kind of public investment in hedge funds. But like, you know, if you don't take it out in time, or if you can't take it all out, then it just goes down, right? And I think in this specific scenario, like it's very complicated. After like the margin call happened, maybe we should also talk about the Citadel situation. I wonder, Ian,
Yeah,
if you have,
that's next.
yeah, like Ian probably has some, can break it down a little bit more. But like you're not going to get anything back. And if you don't withdraw and you redeem, choose to redeem, and also like Leopold, technically what hedge funds will do though is for the employees and the team, they actually do get carry at the end of every year. So depends on the hedge fund and the structure, but usually what we call it is we like crystallize the carry at the end of the year. So if the fund was up, you know, say 100% and you deserve, you know, X million dollars of carry, that will actually get paid out to the employees and the manager of the fund at the end of the year, which also makes hedge funds a little bit of a weird structure because there's a misalignment between when the manager of the hedge fund get paid versus when the investors get their money back, right?
Right.
So it is a very interesting, complicated structure, but I suspect like no one could have redeemed in the last week. You know,
Oh.
it's just too fast.
Actually, Ian, great question. Like you're kind of hinting at a question I'm dying to ask Ian, because Ian, you were the former sovereign wealth LP. You know, if you had exposure into Leopold's fund as an LP, and you know you're a smart dude, and you're like, this dude is fucking 4x levered right now. Would you actually call him or something and say like, what is the strategy? Like this seems pretty risky, or you know, what's the LP side of it, especially if you're like a sovereign institution, witnessing all stuff.
Hedge fund team. I was part of the VC team, so I don't know how it works very well. But I think there's always a rule that if it goes below a certain level, we always redeem it. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think they would have called, but again, as Kevin said, it happened so fast overnight for 2 days in a row. So I don't think anybody has been able to, you know, get their money back. And the other thing is they wouldn't put their money into these kind of hedge funds. Like betting process for sovereign wealth fund, for hedge fund or any fund is crazy. They're not going to invest in first time fund managed by two AI gurus, or, you know, they have never done any investment in their life. They would never put money into those kind of funds. This is
Yeah.
mostly high net worth. And that's another thing. I think the LPs of this fund should be somebody who wants the narrative of situational awareness go out and become, you know, the real next steps of, or they want this to be the prediction, the right prediction for the market. So that's why I think it's more on the, I mean, when this was out, the situational awareness was out in 2024, I think everybody was aware that, hey, we're going to have shortage in electricity. We might. We're going to have a lot of money going into data centers. It was already pretty obvious. And, you know, the China and US will fight over AI. That was all geopolitical issues. These were all very crystal clear to everybody. But I read this when this was out, and I wrote a post about this too. But the only thing that got everybody's attention was the prediction of AGI happening 2027. And I called bullshit back then. Again, this is not something, AGI is not something we can do in current system and current AI, you know, models and kind of stuff. And we're going to see it like next year, AGI doesn't happen. It was all just crazy narrative driven. One, FOMO, fear mongering, and also people who wants to make money out of this data center and all these predictions. And they back this guy or this person. I don't want to call this guy kid because that makes me look old, but you know, this person, and you know, to make him look successful because he made the right prediction. And a lot of people made money along the way. So I think it's just a whole market craze feed into this guy. And there will be someone like this. There's another Leopold. There's another guy who hits a good piece. I don't know, Citrini or whatever. They get a lot of money, try their luck. And, you know, if you make it, you're done for the life. So I think it's, if you are young and smart and has all the pedigrees to come back, I think this is just something that you might as well try.
Yeah. Okay.
Ian is encouraging this risk taking. Wait.
This
We
is
need a
not investment
disclaimer.
advice.
This is not investment advice. A disclaimer
We
for
have Bill
everyone who's
Hahn.
listening.
He almost made so much money. Like you just
Yeah.
need to know when to stop. But it just people like as a human being, you cannot stop, and that's why House always wins.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up, but there's one more big part of this story that we need to cover before we move on to some other news. We purposely have blocked a lot of time for this conversation on this topic because it's so interesting. Let's talk about Ken Griffin and Citadel for a moment. So Citadel, the OG, I guess, hedge fund of hedge funds. I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it's such a canonical. They do a lot of things like market making, all that stuff now too, right?
Hmm.
Ken Griffin, kind of like one of the most enduring personalities in finance, probably in the last few decades, even. This is the rumor that I've been sort of tracking, and again, I'm just throwing out speculation with no basis. Is that he was trying to target Leopold is a theory right now, where he's been spreading a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, into the market about like rate hikes and all these things that are kind of like going to put like incredible exogenous pressure on AI and chip companies and all this stuff. And I think actually he's kind of largely correct. I sort of buy his view. And it just seems very convenient because, there's a view that he has been planting a lot of this FUD with his reach and his journalist connections and things like that. And he did conveniently swoop in to buy all of the public positions on this in this unwind for situational awareness for something like 50 cents or 30 cents on the dollar, right? And he's getting a hell of a steal right now in these great companies like CoreWeave and SK Hynix and all this stuff. Yes, there's a lot of volatility right now, but buying it at such a price, I feel like is a really de-risked way of doing it. So this guy's going to stand to make a lot of money, and he's done this before, right? He swooped in, picked up all like Marvin Capital or whatever's assets back in like the GameStop fiasco during the squeeze. This guy is kind of incredible, but again, I want to point to you actually, Kevin, on this one. Like, there's been a lot of stories like this before around Ken Griffin being like, this guy spears, like sends out these rumors and then just swoops in and buys these assets at like lowball prices. How common is this? I know Bill Ackman also kind of do this stuff too, but it almost feels illegal, almost towing the line of illegality of market manipulation. But he keeps on doing it.
Yeah, I mean, so the story behind it, at least what I've heard, the rumors is that people believe that Citadel was talking about a Fed rate hike that would drive AI stocks lower. The thing is, though, there are like rate like plots, like there's data out there of like where the market believes where rates are heading. So I don't think it's necessarily that like everyone's just gonna look to Ken Griffin or Citadel and believe their view is correct. Like there is effectively like think of it as like a public betting market where everyone sees the data and sees where people think probability wise what the Fed will do. But I don't know if like I buy the idea that Citadel issued this report and everyone was listening to them and everyone's gonna end up causing this panic because of that. But what I do think Ken Griffin and Citadel are very, very good at is finding these dislocations in very opportunistic, like chaotic scenarios where the market is showing a lot of weakness and kind of sweeping in at the right time to be able to take advantage of that, which is like, I mean, it's a real skill, right? Because when the rest of the market is scared, you have to be willing to like, nut up and go and do what everyone else is not ready to do, right? And I saw that Millennium, which is another big hedge fund, did take a look at the portfolio, Leopold's portfolio as well. So did Jane Street, which, as people may know, is like one of the biggest proprietary like trading firms, like another effectively like big hedge fund as well.
Yeah,
But
full
funny
of
enough,
geniuses too.
yeah, like started by super, super smart folks, I think from like MIT and some of the most like tech, like quantitative colleges out there. But apparently, Jane Street is also itself an LP investor in situational awareness already. So I think they already knew what the entire book was, and it sounds like they either passed on it or they didn't bid high enough to win. So probably tells you a little bit about the quality of the portfolio at that time. Stocks have obviously rebounded actually in the last few days. So it's funny because if Leopold hadn't gotten margin called, he'd probably be sitting okay at this point. But at the time, when things are going, I mean, I think those are probably also the days when Kospi was, the Korean index was down like, 40% or something in like 2 days, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if he had any Korean exposure, but, a lot of people thought, hey, it's going to keep going down, right? Like it's over, it's all over. Like the market's just going to crash and everything's over. To be able to like step in that period of time and say, hey, we're going to buy it all, it takes some balls, I think.
I agree with you on that. Like they do. I don't think this was all plotted by Ken Griffin, but Citadel is really good at finding these again, where the market is not effective. But at the same time, I feel like people are coming up with these crazy stories that Wall Street planned for it. Like this was just to get money out of this Leopold guy and all that kind of stuff is crazy because I think the market is searching for an answer because they're scared when they're losing money for the 2 days in a row and they didn't know what was happening and they didn't want to believe this is the end of the AI or AI bubble is popping. So they were viciously searching for an answer and they were like, hey, the market is okay. AI is fine. There's no AI bubble. All this crazy, plunge, downturn happened because of Ken Griffin. It was an easy narrative that, that let them, hey, we got to stay in the market because the market's always going to go up. So that's why there's a lot of stories around this. I think it just, market is volatile and everything's wrong. The numbers are crazy. So it's natural that, we'd lose 40% over 2 days and recover 35% in a day. What's crazy is for the entire this week, I think Kospi only lost 1%. So it lost 40% in 2 days and recovered everything yesterday. I think they recovered about 30 or 35% come back. And overall, it was just 1% loss for the entire week. But it was a hell of a ride, ton of margin calls. No, I haven't seen anybody, committing suicide over this yet because we are up so much. But it was crazy roller coaster for a lot of Koreans, and everybody's selling right now. The individual investors are selling because they've seen hell. So everybody's getting out, and the institution money is going back in. So I don't know. It's just the market is crazy. It's been crazy for a while. So people think this is normal or it's fine and it will always go up. But I think we're just at a crazy situation that anything could happen in this era, in this market environment. And I think what I think this might be crazy prediction. Again, I'm really against the market right now. It's when dot-com bubble popped, there was always this dead cat bounce. It was not just one way down. There was a day that, hey, we're fine after a week of, downturn, and it was recovering a little bit. But at the end of the, in the long run, that's how bubble pops. It's just not one day or 1 week. It loses money over 5 years or a year or two and stagnate there for 10 or 15 years. So I don't know. We might be okay now, but I still think the fundamentals are not there.
I think, guys, this is going to end up being a 2-hour conversation. We should probably leave it at that. And I want to conclude before we move on to our next story. I think we have time for maybe covering 2 things really quick. That's why Leopold wasn't on that stage with the Korean president last Friday. He was dealing with this, right?
Yeah.
I was wondering where my boy was. Well,
Honorary
best of
Korean.
luck. Exactly. Best of luck to the team at Situational Awareness. I know that you guys are taking a lot of heat right now, but we applaud the boldness. Yeah, we don't want anything bad to happen to any of that team, and carry on.
He still has a $5 billion position in Anthropic, by the way.
He sold $3.5 billion of it though to Sequoia and Green Oaks.
Oh,
last night.
no. Okay, he
Yeah.
still has $1.5 billion worth of Anthropic then.
Yeah. So the wedding is still on. There's some funds for the honeymoon. Don't worry, Leopold. You'll be okay. You're young. You'll do well. Let's actually, I'll come back to you because you actually shared a really interesting story about Tesla and their Chinese business side of it. Can you share a little bit more about what might be maneuvering over at Tesla right now?
So this is a news that I read this morning. Tesla is thinking about separating or, do some restructuring to make their China business independent from their US business, all because they think there's going to be a merger between SpaceX and Tesla. So
Hmm.
you can't have Chinese business if you are SpaceX because, again, this is national security issue. So I think that's what people think, like Tesla's preparing to get acquired or acquire. Maybe it should be get acquired by SpaceX. So they're just cut the ties with China as much as possible right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. We didn't even talk about like SpaceX's performance yet, but they're down quite a bit. Not like something like 30%, I want to say, from like the
Maximum growth,
50.
50%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty severe drawdown. And I know that there's like some unlocks that are starting to happen, like something like 9% of like yeah, like I can only imagine like the people who are in the privates, like the three chingus here, are like very strongly considering like an unload on that position. Although at this price, I'm not sure. Maybe we just let it ride to see what happens with Tesla. But like Tesla's also suffering too. They missed earnings, right? I think this week. Um, I think their strategy is nonsense. In veering away from cars, focusing on humanoids. I kind of wish they'd just make nicer cars. So, but like, is this the way that you just juice prices? You just like slap them together? And is this like we discussed before, like the ultra conglomerate, the ultra chibble is starting to form right now? Is that Elon's whole strategy for trying to juice, I guess, enterprise value? You're kind of like nodding to that, right?
I think it's
Go ahead,
it's also
Kevin.
Yeah,
governance,
go ahead.
right? I think because like the China business, I don't know what the exact rules are, but I'd imagine that the US would not be happy with like I think selling off the China business from Tesla is to also clean up the like governance, kind of like geopolitical exposure of Tesla so that it can more easily fit into XAI and SpaceX, right? And then yes, I think I mean if I were Elon, I would want to merge everything together because it makes things so much simpler. I could be like, I have one job, I run this X conglomerate, and it has all my businesses, and I can spend my time wherever I want, and people are not going to ask me, where do you spend your time? You have three companies, I have one company, and that's it. And so it's like, I think it actually solves a lot of his problems. I think the electric car making business is just so hard, man. Like, China's crushing it. You guys have probably seen these like BYD cars. Oh my,
Beautiful. Yeah.
they're like, and they're at like half the price of like, they're like just a slightly more expensive than what a Tesla would be, but they're like so much more luxurious and
Yeah.
nicer.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's no way I don't think we're going to be able to compete with that. And so I think Elon sees the writing on the wall. It's like, what am I doing? Like making electric cars. Like I'm never going to beat the Chinese at doing that. I need to like, the robotic, he's trying to find the humanoid, something to do with his infrastructure, but I don't think competing over electric cars is going to be a good idea.
Who's gonna buy it?
Mm.
Ian, do you have any perspective on it? Like who, like if he sells it off, is it like a BYD or something that picks up the assets? Is that do they spin off yeah,
Independent company like Tesla China. I don't think
I
they're going to
see.
do somebody else. They just want to run it separately.
I
Um,
see.
but I think this might be, I don't know, when I was listening to you guys, this might be a good time to think about Blue Origin stocks. Like,
Oh
not
gosh,
the stocks,
interesting.
but Blue Origin, like, because I think they're raising right now. I don't know, maybe this is some
Hmm.
They
information.
are. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So might be a good idea to think about Blue Origin because once you merge Tesla and SpaceX, I mean, SpaceX is already losing money on XAI. They're going to be losing more money on Tesla side. and Optimus and physical AI and all this nonsense. So that's gonna, I don't know. SpaceX, of course, dominant, the best space company ever. But at the same time, again, we talked about this before. Like Elon's in crumbling business. All his business is crumbling. It's not going well. None of those are going well. SpaceX was the, crown jewel of his entire holdings. So he's leveraging that to save the rest of his businesses. So Tesla is, I like my Tesla, but at the same time, what he's doing on Tesla, I think is not the right way to do it. So yeah, I mean, SpaceX might slow down because of XAI and Tesla and all these other businesses. Then Blue Origin might get a shot.
I feel like the only thing I could see really like saving Tesla right now though is the autonomous stuff that they're doing. Like
FSD.
yeah, robotaxi.
Yeah.
Like I think I mean, we see Waymos everywhere around here, but like the Teslas, I've taken a couple of the robotaxis here too. Like they work completely fine. And I think that would be a very interesting, like a more interesting business in my mind because like I do think autonomous vehicles are going to come very soon and be a little bit more mainstream. And like I would say after Waymo, Tesla's probably in my book like the close number two, maybe like tied with Zoox or something. And that can be a pretty big business, even if they're not like manufacturing millions and millions of cars every year.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous what's happening right here with this entire roll up strategy. But yeah, I'm with you. I just kind of I think I do agree with your statement earlier too, Ian, that I don't know how anyone can compete with China on the EV side of it. Like the writing is definitely on the wall. If you're paying your employees like $2 an hour and also have like really good like almost like dark factory like capability for some of your manufacturing and the manufacturing quality I've heard of Teslas in China are better than what you find. Like the product is actually better in China. I've heard like it's better fitted and like quality control is higher and everything like that. Um, yeah, I can see why he would be scared off and just trying to just throw us all together. Um,
The
so well,
Elon Musk interview with The Economist, it was last week.
I heard
No.
that there's some sort of meltdown.
It
Can you
was,
share more?
you guys should watch it. It was one of the most interesting or latest best interviews that I've watched. The editor of Economist calling Elon Musk, she was just confronting him like, why are you on the far right?
Oh, I saw this. I saw clips of it.
Yeah.
I actually didn't watch the whole thing. I remember now.
I didn't see the whole film. I mean whole interview, but I just watched the short films and I read about it. I actually tried to put a carousel about it, but it's just so long and there's so many things you can get out of it against Elon. So, but I think it's an interesting interview, and it just got me thinking like how maybe I or either one of us are crazy delusional about the word right now. Like it's either Elon or me. Like I don't know what he's thinking and how he's thinking about what's going on in the word. So I don't know. It was also it was entertaining, but also very frustrating that there's nothing. The gap between Elon and myself. Yeah, obviously it's big, but it's just the understanding of the word is completely different. This is
Yeah.
so far. I don't know what to do about it.
Ah, well, I think what we can do is let's move on to our last story and then wrap up this pretty fascinating discussion today. So, I want to talk, Ian, about music. All right. So, you brought up this story, which is how BTS is going to be boycotting the Grammys this year. And the story goes that the people behind the Grammys, that big, I guess, prestigious musical award, is introducing a new Asian pop category in February 2027. And BTS's reaction, which was, I'm actually reading the quotes, was a little more kind than what I'm saying. It's just like, that's kind of fucking racist. Like our music is just great. And like, why are you calling it? Why do you need to create like an Asian category here, right? Um, so you made some commentary about this with your Instagram and some of your social community, and I think this might be the biggest reaction you've ever received. Can you summarize a little bit about like what you shared and why do you think it's getting such traction from a VC who is talking about BTS?
So I think it's around, a little bit of racist comments from, not really comment, but people think this is against BTS because BTS has been one of the best performing artists in the US, but haven't got Grammys yet. People think it's because they're not, you know, normal white people there, and they're creating this category so that they can fit them into the specific category, not the main Grammys award. So
Yeah.
that's why everybody's got upset. This happened before. Last year, Bad Bunny won, Grammys, and they created
Mm.
Latin music, Latin pop category too. So I don't know. It was just a behavior that we see over and over, that if a minority wins the major award, they create a subcategory so they can fit those minority into those, and telling people, hey, we're expanding our base. And we don't think that's the right way to do it. It's saying like it's separated or segregated, but equal. And this never, and history has proven this is not the right way to do it. We had separation in the United States. We had, separated but equal ideas. Different color, different races should use different bathrooms. I think it was 100 years ago, here in the United States too. So, and it didn't end well. And that's exactly what's happening on the BTS side. So people got upset, and everybody's boycotting Grammys. We'll see how that goes, but. One commentary that I really liked was, maybe we should think about creating an American pop category so that the Americans
Yeah.
works
No,
too.
I think it's weird, right? Because when you create these new categories, you're effectively saying that we're not a global show. Like we're not a
Okay.
global awards ceremony, right? We are a US, like you're effectively saying we're a US American show, and when we bring in international artists, we've got to create new categories for them. Versus if I were the Grammys, I'd just say we're a global awards show. So everyone is anyone in the world is eligible for the awards that we have, right? Because I agree, like I don't think I want to be a global, award show. I don't want to be, but then it's hard, right? Because then you've got to solicit, from the globe. And there's a lot of artists, like I learn about new artists every day from all different countries that I've never heard of, from Spain, from like Mexico. I'm like, wow, these are big, big, big artists, but I've never heard of them as someone who lives in the US.
But one
But
one thing
yeah,
is that BTS is performing so well in the US, not in Korea. BTS was never a thing in Korea, to be honest. So
yeah,
that bothers me. It's not international artists coming to the US. Maybe they're international artists, but they perform really well in the US. And if this is a local US show or awards, they should be awarding the best performing artist in the US. It just
yeah,
doesn't make sense. So,
yeah. Well,
Well,
my wife is a huge ARMY fan. Like she's a huge BTS fan, so we're actually going to see them in like 3 weeks in Texas. So if
very
anyone
good.
wants to join,
yeah, one, two.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds great. I think it's the right time now to introduce that the Three Commas podcast is actually going to be launching its K-pop career now as the Chingus. We're debuting at the Grammys in February 2027 on stage. So look out for
that's
Kevin,
right.
aka Sweet Sweet Sugar,
Our
Ian,
biggest
aka
competition has been eliminated, so now we will win.
exactly.
We will win the
We're shoo-ins
category.
for this Asian pop category, right? Uh,
I know. There's no one else who's going to apply, so we're good.
Yeah. Guys, this has been a really fun conversation. We have veered into hedge fund mechanics and strange rumors about Citadel and Chinese manufacturing and now K-pop, and it's been a really fun episode. I think today's my turn, right,
Yes,
Yeah,
to sign things off.
yes.
yeah.
Okay, I want to be extra clear to people, to all the chingus out here listening to the Three Commas podcast today. We have talked a lot about very specific assets that you should be long on, short on, that we're personally doing. For the love of God, this is not investment advice. Okay, like please do your research. What do we know? We're just like our armchair quarterbacks every Friday morning recording this podcast. But we are also very, very grateful, chingus, to have you listen in. Guys, thank you for another great chat session. It was my favorite time of the week. Have a good one, guys.
All right. Peace out.